Hey guys, it's Bang for About PC Gamer here. Over the years, overclocking has become quite a selling point for graphics cards, and if you're into overclocking like me, this is definitely something you do consider before pulling the trigger on a new purchase. So what is overclocking? It basically is increasing core and memory clock speeds over what you would get from the factory of the manufacturer, and this in turn gives you extra performance for absolutely free. This isn't without risk, but if you take the necessary precautions, you can minimize those and enjoy a faster graphics card for absolutely nothing. So in today's video, I'll be taking the AMD RX 480 with the latest architecture Polaris and comparing it to the overclocking yields of the latest NVIDIA GTX 1080 from the Pascal family. Now this isn't a performance comparison, I want to make that clear, because obviously that would be very one-sided. This is literally just to compare what kind of overclocking yields you get from both architectures. I'm going to be taking two games and overclocking both cards and seeing just how much of a performance increase you get from doing this. Luckily for me, both of my cards have quite a very good overclock, so we should be able to see what you would expect from getting a good overclock from both of these architectures. So I'll be kicking things off with AMD's RX 480 with its Polaris architecture. I'll be using Crimson Driver 16.91 hotfix, which are the latest as of today's date. Default core clock for RX 480 is 1266 MHz with 2000 MHz on the memory. The default model of the Nitro has 1342 MHz as the overclock, but I've had to reduce that to match the stock clock. So this is the overclock I use. I added 30 on the voltage. I increased the power limit all the way up to 50, and as for the core clock, I was able to push this all the way up to 1450 on the core. Memory wasn't as great. I was able to get a maximum of 2150, so that's quite a decent overclock, quite higher than average, and also the temperature limit is at 90 Celsius, so no chance of any throttling, as the Nitro Cooler does a great job. Looking around, I've found that this is quite a substantial overclock, so it should give some good results. So moving on to NVIDIA, and for the Pascal architecture, I'll be using my NVIDIA GTX 1080. Now because this 1080 has such a high boost clock, now that I've put a custom cooler on it, I have to reduce the core clock by -60 just to get the default boost clock I was getting when I was using the Founders Edition original cooler. So the overclock I'll be putting on will be 225 on the core and 496 on the memory, which turns out to be 500 because for some reason my card in particular has 6 megahertz over 500 at stock, which is a bit strange. For voltage, all I do is add 70, and I also increase the power limit to 120% and the temperature limit also to 92 Celsius, so there's not much chance of it going to throttle because of heat problems. So that is pretty much the overclock I'm going to be using. As you can see, 1832 megahertz on the core, 1375 megahertz on the memory, and an estimated boost of 1959, but as we know, the boost is definitely going to be a lot higher than that. Okay, that about wraps up my test, guys. So what have we learned? Looking at the RX 480, obviously not the best overclock in the world, but with just under 200 megahertz overclock on the core and 150 increase on megahertz to the memory, you can expect between 8 and 9 frames per second at 1080p, which is definitely a welcome boost, and you can't complain about it. 8 or 9 FPS in terms of graphical performance is easily worth at least £50 difference in price if you're going to buy a higher performing graphics card. Looking at the GTX 1080 and the Pascal architecture, you're looking at 12 to 13 frames per second increase, so that's obviously a very, very nice boost. And obviously this is a very, very high overclock, 2.1 gigahertz overclock on the GTX 1080, which most people won't achieve, but if you do have the cooling, then this is what you can expect. So obviously we'd have to give it to Pascal for being the superior overclocking architecture. Obviously this is not an apples to apples comparison between performance. Anyway guys, hopefully you've taken something from this video. I did enjoy making it, so if you got any comments, just leave them down in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.